Okay, so on a brighter note, uh, getting over the hullabaloo of all the crappiness that's been going on lately, we'll finally wrap up my story, as it were, about reason or about origin, which was terribly exhaustive and didn't really. It kind of just kept rehashing the same ideas again and again. And I guess that's kind of the point of it, really, is that a lot of the things that we want to get across, a lot of the things that we want to teach people, that story about the reason, about the origin, is my personal understanding of it. It's not the ultimate shared concept, but it's what I see. And things that we want to teach, things we want to get across, are values. They're simple value systems. They're so simple that it kind of slips and people don't really get it, and you gotta rinse and repeat. You gotta keep repeating the same things again and again for people to just kind of make a habit of it. So maybe that was an inference in there, but really I was just kind of exhausting the story and it was going nowhere. So I felt as though that video was not good enough. So to snap the story recap, you wake up, sort of. You appear in the middle of nowhere, and you decide that you need to explore yourself. You decide that you need to identify yourself somehow, and you have this reflective void around you that allows for you to essentially create, to use pieces of yourself to create. And so you use pieces of what you are, the power of heaven, the pure creation, the origin, to divide yourself into pieces and to examine them, to reflect upon them, to know each other. You know, say you divide a part of what you are, the ultimate all, into male and female, masculine and feminine, to love each other. That's the purpose. That's the point. So that we can love ourselves, really, that we can know ourselves, examine, explore ourselves. That's what we're doing here. I mean, ultimately, regardless of whether you take my opinion on it or my structured organization of this particular story, it is going to come down to the same thing. That is the fact of the matter. We are one soul divided into pieces, be it shattered, broken, fractured, or be it, accumulated, created, uh, manifested, whatever the case may be. We are all pieces of the same organism here, and we are essentially here for the sake of loving ourselves and knowing ourselves, for investing in ourselves and becoming something. Because remember, the story begins with nothing. We are nothing. Just one point floating in the middle of nowhere. That's not a thing. It can't identify itself. It's not. It's nothing. Just 1 plus 1 equals 0. You can't take the same thing and add it to itself. It effectively negates itself. So it has to become two. Where we have 1 second is the measure of time. 1 second, one another, and we create time. We use time. Now, coming all the way to here, to where we are, we developed relativity, and we use that to measure. We use that to enunciate our being, essentially. It's the language we use to write reality right now. We do have quantum mechanics coming up, which is not entirely separated from relativity. It's not something totally different. It's on a smaller scale, and it has rules that are um, rules that are structured in the same manner as relativity, but we can't see that yet, or at least our explorers, our scientists cannot see the structure of these rules in play yet. They can't really grasp the physics of it. because there are factors in play that they're unable to examine at the moment. And that could very well be either A, because they haven't found the proper machinery, the correct lens to put on their microscope, or could be that it doesn't exist yet. Could be that we're still making it. My personal theory about quantum mechanics, I think that it was a gift. I think it was given to us by somebody else, another species from another galaxy. Because if you take a look at other galaxies, you will find, oddly enough, nobody really discusses this. I guess nobody really looks at other galaxies a lot, but the people that do will tell you other galaxies don't seem to function exactly the same way as us. It's almost as though they're operating on a different rule set, a different existence concept. So, that there's a different kind of time there, and it could very well be neighboring galaxies governed by quantum mechanics. And the closer that we come to figuring out quantum mechanics, the weirder things are getting. And it's not just that we find weirder things in there, in the particles and in the structures of these minuscule events. It's that life is getting weirder. More possibilities are opening up, changes are happening, alterations are being made to the way that we exist. Sorry, pasta. But I'd like to state, or I'd like to bring to bear that the idea of there being an alien something that delivered into us quantum mechanics, that gave us a gift of a different skill set or rule set, a different operating system for physics. I think that is a very serious issue that we should be discussing. Anybody that's interested, I mean, there's evidence everywhere. The whole world is littered with evidence, testimony, stories, written stories, mythologies, writings on the wall, man. Literally writings on the wall, cave paintings, hieroglyphs, telling us that there are aliens here. Now, anybody who looks at that, sees that, and says, I don't believe it. Are you for real? I mean, it's right. It's not something that you really need to think about. It's you look at it and you see what it is, and it explains itself. Yes, there are aliens here at some point. Could very well still be here. We know Status is aware of the extremely potential existence, like the highly plausible existence of more than one species of extraterrestrial entities that may be existing among us or may be visiting us in some way, exchanging with us. Obviously, we can't prove that, but I mean, we have all the videos, we have all the testimony. I mean, people who want to think that everything's a fraud, it's it's really a lot simpler. Again, as I said in our belief video, first video, if something appears to be, as though it is a thing, a certain thing, chances are it is going to fucking be that. It's not going to be something, far fetched, outlandish. Oh, people were, you know, stepping on boards in the fields and making crop circles. I mean, that happened. Afterwards, people made hoaxes, but some of that shit was impossible. Some of the things, if you look at the examination of that, crazy stuff happens to those plants. Crazy stuff. In any case, we thanks, we get to the point here where utilizing relativity, utilizing quantum mechanics, especially utilizing quantum mechanics allows for a lot more possibilities to open up. If you start to try and use that as your existence concept versus relativity, you'll find that there's just a whole hell of a lot more possibility, things that you're able to do. And if you are a traveler, which we have travelers in this day and age, we always have. We have people that do, projections. We have people that do dream works. We have people that do hallucinogenics, so-called hallucinogenics. Honestly, I don't believe in hallucination. If you experience something, that's what it is, an experience. But travelers that use psychedelics and such, any such thing, people that travel in the psyche, in the mind, in the world, in the greater mind, the soul that is everything, and explore it. These explorers, such as myself, and several other of our operatives. Our new director happens to be a experienced traveler in this regard. Uh, a lot of us get to a point where we return to the never. We're trying to. Psychonauts. We try to get deeper. We try to dive deeper. We try to hit the bottom of the mystery. And eventually we do. We get to the boundary. We get to hit the wall. And we find that where at once, when we left the origin, it was us. We were creating. We were becoming. But when we go back there, ultimately we find that it's out here on the fringes, that it's back in to reality, everyday life and material operations, practical matters, that we can make use of the insights we found out there in the void. And it's just the interest really lies here. This is the game. This is the real deal. This is what we want to do. This is where we want to be. There's nothing to find out there, but I mean that's what a lot of us find when we hit the wall. It's just us. However, some of us get smack up against that boundary, and we find that in fact there is something there. There seems to be something communicating, something existing beyond the boundary that's making contact with us somehow, attempting to commune with us. Was it always there? That's the question we need to be asking. Was this something always there? What is this something? If we're the God figure, we're the original one, split into pieces, divided, fractured into so many identities, then we create as the creator. We live in our own creation. We dream our existence into reality. That's simple enough. However, if there's something outside of the boundary, might we not really be that God figure? Might that be the God figure beyond that? Might that have created us? Might that be using us as a creation tool? It's a possibility. These are questions that we want to be asking travelers who have hit the wall and seen this, and we've shared this experience, and we come back and said, you know what? No fucking shit. There's something out there. There's something out there, something alien. Then we have to ask questions. Could it be that this something that's out there, just didn't communicate with us before? We didn't have the capacity to see it, or what have you? Maybe we needed to evolve and become something more intricate before we could actually identify its communication. Or is it something that's being created? Is that perhaps the God figure that we have been creating, the concept of God itself evolving and becoming something that we are making happen? That God, in fact, does not exist at the origin. God is the result, which, viewing things from the perspective of our concept of time mechanics, makes absolutely perfect sense because time moves in reverse. The reason exists first. Then there is devised a series of explanations, events, coordinated uh, happenings that exist merely to explain what the result is. It's like a writer making a story. You come up with the plot. You intend for something to happen, and then you have to write in the events that lead up to it so that it makes sense. Because if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. You can't just have something from out of nowhere that doesn't mean anything to us. You know, a God that just exists with no point of origin, an impulse without a point of origin. That's not science. That's not something that we can describe properly or accurately or in any definable manner. That doesn't make any sense. Therefore, it just can't exist. It can't be real. We need an explanation for it. That's how we feel about things. And that could be off. That could be a part of the existence concept we're using, that we feel we need an explanation for everything where in fact we don't. Because obviously, at some point, we popped out of nowhere. It's inevitable. At some point, there is something that just appeared impossibly, emerged from nothing at all. So that's a definite reality at some point. But we want to determine one way or the other. I think is ultimately the question: is this something that exists? Is that our reason in the sense that it created us? Or is that our reason in the sense that we're creating it? Or both, the Alpha and the Omega. There are some people who do not believe that it is something that's being created. There are some people that think that there is maybe a little bit more truth to the mythologies that we know of, the religious scriptures, and that perhaps there's something out there beyond the boundary existed the whole time, and they actually feel as though perhaps something nefarious may be afoot, that maybe we are in fact kind of trapped in this eternity by this presence that put us here. Maybe we've been condemned to this eternity where we repeat the same cycles ongoing forever and ever and ever. And it happens to be the case that I am one of those people. I don't want that to be the case, but again, see something happening that is that is a coordinated event that's difficult to kind of interpret and explain, I tend to lean towards asking who stands to gain. Somebody fucking does. So maybe there is something that locked us up in this foreverness. I'm going to have to determine that. That's going to be a mission statement for me. Determining the absolute situation. And you know what? It can be both. It can be all. Obviously, we do not need an accurate explanation for existence because it does in fact exist of its own accord. So, regardless of that factor, what I intend to do at some point is to put together a team of psychonauts to explore, to go as far as they can, to we've developed methods now, we've come up with ideas, and some people have practiced these put these theories to test and found out that through the use of time mechanics and through the use of certain chemical triggers, that we can in fact control these events, and that we can travel and hit the wall, and try to get to the boundary and get as clear sight as we can in a controlled environment under like a sort of a laboratory setting, and experiment with this. We don't have to worry about it being like, oh shit, I took too much sort of thing. We can actually coordinate it properly. And so I intend to put together a team of travelers that are brave enough to go to the end, go to the end of the world and check it out and see if they don't all come back with some sort of a systemic concept, something that makes sense, that we can make sense of, and that in itself would be the truly final frontier. It's not like space travel. It's not like we send somebody to Mars and who knows what's going to happen to them. You know, maybe it's a one-way trip. Maybe they find a way back. Maybe they survive there. You know, they go to another planet. Who knows? Maybe aliens pick them up halfway. But this is not like that. This is a trip outside of our concept of existing, beyond the threshold of reality. So regardless, it's a one-way trip. Every trip a traveler takes, they come back a different person. This one's going to be particularly drifty. This one's going to be hitting the limit, hitting rock bottom, breaking out the shovel and digging. We want to find out what's on the other end there. We want to make certain that we understand. We have some concept of an understanding of what the fuck is going on. And we are going to investigate that. That's the intention that I have. Miguel is working with me on it. We're going to put this together. It's going to be a thing. We have a few other psychonauts, experienced travelers that are going to work with us. We know what chemicals are involved. We know what's required. We're going to make this a reality at some point. A program, the remnants of tomorrow. But in any case, something I'd like to talk about beyond that reason, beyond the concept of an ultimate reasoning, or before and above, stands in my frame of reference as the above and beyond all, first and foremost. Always, in every situation, every second. This is what matters to me. My reason. I was watching a video, and it was about the kids this day and age, which we happen to be talking about. The school shootings and these terrible events that are occurring among the younger crowds, generation, millennials, so to speak, or what have you. And the videos about how they're down, they're all down, they're depressed, they're lacking direction, discipline, and they kind of get everything handed to them. Their parents baby them their whole lives, kind of give them the give them the fucking trophy for participation sort of thing going on, and teach them that they just kind of get whatever they want without having to put much into it. And then they get into the real world and they find out that is in fact not the case. You have to bust your ass to get what you need, let alone what you want in this world. Earth is not a place for weak or lazy people. It's not. You're not going to make it here. You're not going to manage. You might get an easy ride for a little while, but ultimately it's going to turn out to be meaningless and worthless and empty. The only way you're going to put some meaning in your life is to work for it on this planet. So, uh, they're talking about how these younger generations are lacking motivation, lacking confidence. They have a fear of loss because they 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 go to a job and they feel like, for example, they go to a job and seriously, the employers are going to treat them like nothing, like they don't matter. You're going to go to a job and if your employers don't make certain, I'm not like if you're working as a cook at a fast food kind of place restaurant and your manager is losing money and she needs to cover her ass, she'll drop you. That's what happened to me. She'll drop you. You don't matter. And just toss you. You're just an easily replaceable employee that can be, laid off nowadays. There's no job security. Nobody gives a shit about each other. So these kids show up at these jobs and they find out that they don't matter. And they've kind of been taught to be careless and taught ultimately to lose. Like that's their way of life is to give up, give in, be a victim. And there are other factors in play that make this happen that we're not going to talk about now because it's a whole other topic altogether. But there are, in fact, impositions in play that make people feel this way nowadays, especially these recent generations that feel as though they're kind of addicted to victimization. That's not a natural occurrence, and it's not always the parents. In fact, in most cases, the parents have nothing to do with it. It's an exterior factor that is imposed upon them. But the video is talking about the difference between finite and infinite games. In a finite game, you have a set rule structure like baseball. At the end of 9 innings, whoever gets the most runs is the winner, and we know that it's determinable, and that's how it's going to play out. In an infinite game setting, the rules are changeable. The players continue to evolve. Now, we kind of have that. That's the seesaw here between the ultimate reasons. Did it exist before, or are we creating it now? Did it create us, or are we creating it? Alpha or Omega are both. Is the existence concept that we have of living in a finite or an infinite game. And that is, in fact, the difference that we see evolving from the standard between relativity and quantum mechanics. One is finite, one is ultimately mechanical. It tells a story that has a definite end. The other one, the rules are constantly changing, evolving with you. Rules, the laws of physics itself change to suit the point in the game that you are approaching. They evolve in front of you. The very act of observing them causes for them to be directed to alter themselves to suit your path. And so that's what we're finding with quantum mechanics, and it will not be very long. I can tell you it won't be very long at all before quantum mechanics replaces relativity altogether, and we have a new working existence concept, and the rules of physics as we know them will begin to change. It's already happening. They're beginning to bring quantum mechanics up from this minuscule scale into a more cosmological skill set or texture set. But in any case, this video went into talking about these kids not being able to see their mountain. They don't have a purpose in life. They haven't been taught the discipline to create their own purpose and be their own person, and to build that mountain that they're going to climb to the top of in their because they're living in a finite game structure. You can't get out of that. We actually exist in an infinite game structure that's easily determinable. It's definite, but we are using a finite game structure ideal, and that's why nobody gives a shit about each other, because bottom line matters. And your company's going to drop you if they're not making enough money from you or off of you. You're gonna go home and have to tell your wife and kids or whomever, sorry, I can't provide for you because my employer made 0.6 less than they were supposed to this quarter. So that is the case. And without the mountain, and especially lacking the discipline and the courage to climb that mountain, they have nothing, and feel empty and hopeless and meaningless, like they're doing nothing but living a monotonous life trying to make ends meet. You know, they came from a world where they were babied. Their parents babied them and gave them everything, and used hand sanitizer all the time to keep them clean, and just kind of did not allow for them to build their own identity so much, and to structure their own uh, resource skill sets, resourcefulness, and their what's the word, their immunities, I guess you could say. Their ability to sustain life, the damage that life puts upon you. They don't have the skill set to be resourceful in that regard. They don't know how to manage things so well, and they can't take things so well. You see these generations getting offended by everything. They're addicted to being offended. You say the wrong word around them, and how fucking dare you? A word that they suddenly decided means something different than it did for the past 100 years or so. Suddenly they decide that this word is offensive somehow to them because they don't identify with their gender, whatever, some bullshit that they made up. I mean, yes, people exist in differing gender circumstances, and that's perfectly natural. It's not a new thing. It's not, you kids didn't make it up. It's not yours. It's all of ours. And no, you don't get to take our words and ruin them because you're selfish and you don't know how to cope with. You don't have the proper coping mechanisms to deal with life. So you're gonna use these things as excuses to be offended all the time and be, treat everything like you're being victimized. Snap to, get stronger, fight, fight back, be strong, be tough. That's what you need to do in this world. Being offended by everything and whining and crying, and treating the world like an enemy, that's not going to get you anywhere but dead. Sorry. It's not something I want to say to you. I want you to succeed. I want every one of you to be thoroughly successful. But you gotta get stronger. You gotta develop immunities, coping skills. You gotta make yourself build your mountain and climb it. And that's where I felt so driven by this video. Made lit me up inside because I realized that my whole life, I'd been searching. I'd been in that empty vacuum. I didn't have it. I thought maybe finding the wall, hitting the boundary would be it. I thought maybe finding the girl, finding the one, that would be it. I'd find that girl, we'd fall in love. But it happened. It happened and it happened and it happened again. And every time it sunk. Every time it turned out to be another fairy tale. And, sometimes, I mean, like, my ex wife is, I'll always love her dearly. We'll always be closest friends. That's a true love. It's never going to break. That's a bond that never breaks. It's a real investment. But, you know, and the others, any of the girls that I've been with, most of them except for one, uh, we're all still close, I'll still work together here. Still a part of the initiative. But, I mean, it's not that true love that I've been looking for and that I dream about. That soul that matters to me. And hitting the wall, seeking the boundary, seeking the truth of an ultimate reality. That's a venture for sure. It's a nice mission. It's an objective that works. But I mean, what happens when we find it? We just know. It doesn't change anything. The rules are constantly changing already. It's not like we're going to set it in stone. You know, we're gonna the moment we find it, it's gonna be something different because we are in fact living in a dream. It's all a dream. Everything that we think as being, finite, solid, concrete existence, it's a magic trick. You look at it, if you can look at it from a four-dimensional perspective, if you can see how time wraps into itself, you see that it's all an illusion. It's all a big fucking hilarious magic trick that's being pulled on you. You're playing a trick on yourself and getting away with it. The trick, the magic trick, the illusion is so well crafted. It's so amazingly astounding and just perfect and brilliant that you don't even know that you're the one who's pulling it on yourself. No, that's that. Like I said, that's an objective, but I realize that ultimately coming back out here to the fringes, away from that core idea of an ultimate soulmate or an ultimate reality, back here in the real world, so to speak, I found my mountain, you know, and I'm climbing it. It's you guys, it's all of you, it's every one of you, and you guys made me really proud and happy today, and for the past few days and what you've done, uh, how you guys have been active and working. That makes me feel so amazing that I can get you guys into that and get you communicating with each other and having a good time and exchanging ideas, learning from each other, motivating each other. That makes me so fucking, they just light the fuck up, man. Thank you so much for doing that. You keep me going. You guys are my mountain, and I'm climbing. I'm fucking climbing. We're gonna make it to the top together. We're gonna build this thing, and we're gonna keep building it. We're gonna keep building it, and throughout it all, we're going to fucking rock and roll. I love you guys, every one of you, and I hate to lose people. So I'm gonna try and better myself so that I don't fuck up so much. But thank you so much just for being here. You guys are my reason. That's the reason I have status initiative and every single member in it. You guys are what matters to me first and foremost in every moment. First fucking thing that ever comes to mind is how does this apply to the initiative, to the people? Memorize every single little idea and concept, every single little belief, and memorize every problem, every stigma that each and every one of you guys have that I communicate with. It's constantly flowing in my head. I'm paying attention, watching all of you. I'm paying attention to all of you. I care. I'm invested in every single one of you. And And I do love you very much, all of you, and I wish you the very best. And thank you so much again for being a part of this, and for getting active with it. And I really hope you continue doing that because I feel so amped today. I'm moving so fucking fast. I mean, I've accomplished this fuck ton today that I think I've probably made more progress today evolving in and of myself than I have in the past month or so. So let's keep it up, man. You guys, I'm moving fast and I'm bringing you guys with me. We're gonna hit sixth gear and we're gonna push it pedal to the fucking floor. Let's rock and roll. Kila Salai, our world. Let's make it happen. Forward together, Terve Une Siari. Namaste. Cherish every one of you. Till next time.